Have you ever stood up after sitting for a while and felt your legs buzzing, almost like they're filled with pins and needles? Here's the surprising truth. The way you sit may be quietly cutting off circulation, adding strain on your veins, and even affecting your heart. Most women over 60 do this without even realizing it, and the longer it goes on, the more it chips away at energy, mobility, and healthy aging. In today's talk, I'll show you how something as ordinary as posture can make the difference between sluggish circulation and strong, energized blood flow. And I'll give you simple, practical fixes you can start today. But before we dive in, let me ask a quick favor. If you care about healthy aging, longevity after 60, and circulation health tips that really work, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That way, you won't miss advice that could help you feel stronger and healthier every single day. So why does this matter? Here's what I often notice when women over 60 come to see me. By the evening, their ankles are swollen, their calves ache when they finally put their feet up. Some tell me their legs go numb if they sit too long at the dining table or in their favorite chair. It's a common pattern. And it can be frustrating, can't it? You're not climbing mountains or running marathons, you're simply sitting, yet your body still feels stiff, heavy, and drained of energy. I hear this story again and again. Many women spend time reading, sewing, or watching TV and later notice tingling in their legs or swelling in their feet. Others describe a kind of low battery feeling, fatigue, slower digestion, even a little mental fog. Sound familiar? Does that sound like you? These may seem like small inconveniences, but in truth, they're early signs of circulation slowing down. And when circulation weakens, it doesn't just affect your legs. It can touch nearly every system: digestion, healing, memory, even joint comfort. And while aging does play a role, posture, the way you sit every single day, is often the silent factor no one talks about. By the way, if we haven't met before, my name is Dr. Jonathan Miller. I'm a geriatric specialist, and for more than 30 years, I've had the privilege of caring for older adults, especially women in their 60s, 70s, and beyond. Over the years, I've treated everything from circulation problems to memory concerns, arthritis, and fatigue. But what I've learned is this: it's often the small, everyday habits, how you sit, what you eat, how much you move, that make the biggest difference in long-term health. My interest in this became very personal when I watched my own mother struggle with swelling in her legs and fatigue in her later years. I saw how much it limited her independence, and I promised myself I'd help other women avoid going through the same struggles. And that's why I pay close attention to issues like sitting posture and circulation. They may sound simple, but I've seen again and again how they can change someone's energy, mobility, and quality of life. Let me share a story with you about one of my patients that really shows how powerful this can be. Let me share the story of Linda, a 68-year-old grandmother of 4. She loved spending afternoons in her garden and evenings knitting while watching her favorite shows. On the surface, she looked active and cheerful, but when she sat in my office, she told me her legs often felt like they were filled with sand. By late afternoon, her ankles swelled so much she couldn't fit into her shoes, and she confessed she'd been forgetting little things, where she put her glasses, what she wanted to say mid-sentence. At first, she told herself, maybe this is just what getting older feels like. But deep down, she worried something was wrong. We tried the usual things: more walking, gentle stretches, cutting back on salt. Nothing worked. Week after week, she came back discouraged, and I could see the frustration in her eyes. And then, during a routine visit, she mentioned something almost in passing: how she often sat for hours with one leg tucked underneath her while knitting. It seemed so small, so harmless, but it turned out to be the missing piece of the puzzle. Have you, or someone you love, ever had a simple habit like that cause bigger problems than expected? For Linda, that tiny detail was the turning point. But before I tell you what happened when she made a change, let's take a closer look at why the way you sit has such a powerful effect on circulation and why it matters so much for women over 60. Thank you for staying with me until now. I truly appreciate it because it shows that you genuinely care about your health, about healthy aging, senior nutrition, and longevity after 60. So let's not wait any longer. There's one very simple factor that often gets overlooked but has a huge impact on circulation: your sitting posture. The way you sit, especially if you sit for long hours, directly affects how much blood returns to your heart. And just a few very small, well-placed changes can make all the difference. Sounds reasonable, doesn't it? Let's start with the feet. When you cross your legs, or when your toes point downward and your knees are bent, the blood vessel behind the knee, the popliteal artery, gets slightly compressed and blood flow slows down. Experiments have shown that after just 3 hours of sitting still, the ability of the popliteal artery to dilate drops significantly, from about 4.5% down to only 1.6%. But here's the good news: if you move your ankles every so often, lift your heels, or gently shake your feet, in other words, you wake up the calf muscles, that number doesn't go down. In fact, it goes up to about 6.6%. In plain words, just a few minutes of light movements each hour can undo the negative effects of sitting too long. Why does this small thing matter? Because when you keep your knees bent for a long time, blood flow through the popliteal region is reduced. It's like putting a soft garden hose across the corner of a table. Studies in vascular physiology clearly show that sitting with bent knees reduces blood flow compared to when your legs are stretched and relaxed. So you may be wondering, what should I do right now when I sit? First, let your feet touch the ground firmly. Keep them flat on the floor or on a stable footrest, toes pointing forward, and legs relaxed. Every 20 to 30 minutes, remind yourself to do a short calf pump cycle for 60 to 90 seconds. Rotate each ankle 10 times, lift your heels 10 times, straighten your knees, and repeat 2 to 3 rounds. These tiny moves boost blood flow, stimulate the endothelium, the inner lining of your blood vessels, and help them stay elastic. Reviews of clinical studies confirm that inserting short bouts of movement during sitting improves blood flow in the femoral and popliteal arteries and reduces the decline in endothelial function caused by prolonged sitting. Next, let's talk about the chair, your daily companion. Your hips and knees should talk to each other the right way. Knees level with or slightly lower than your hips, thighs supported, feet grounded. If your chair is too high, use a footrest. If it's too low and your knees sit above your hips, raise the seat or use a wedge cushion so that your hips are slightly higher. This reduces pressure on the back of your thighs and supports your lower spine. Ergonomic guidelines from OSHA and occupational health groups all agree. Feet flat, thighs parallel to the floor, knees level or lower than hips, and change positions regularly, no matter how perfect the posture looks. Now let's add the habit of breaking up sitting time. I tell my patients to set a timer for every 30 to 40 minutes. When it rings, stand up for just 2 to 3 minutes. Walk a few steps, rise up on your toes 10 to 15 times, or do a little calf pump like pressing on a car pedal. The benefit isn't only for your muscles, your blood vessel lining breathes better and circulation improves quickly. In studies, prolonged sitting sharply reduced leg blood flow and shear stress on the endothelium, but once people stood or moved briefly, circulation returned. Some people ask, is sitting really that dangerous? The answer, for most people, the absolute risk of blood clots, VTE, is still low, but it does rise with long periods of inactivity. WHO data shows that after being seated for 4 hours or more on flights, buses, cars, trains, the risk of VTE roughly doubles. Still, the absolute risk is about 1 in 6,000. I share this not to scare you, but to remind you to stand, move your ankles, and drink water, especially on days you're sitting longer than usual. And that brings us to the silent friend of circulation, water. When you're dehydrated, your blood becomes a little thicker and flows more slowly. That's why, for healthy aging, I often suggest an easy target, 6 to 8 cups of fluid per day, water, low-fat milk, unsweetened tea or coffee all count, adjusting for hot weather and activity levels. A simple guide is urine color. Pale yellow means you're in a good range. This is also in line with recommendations from UK health authorities, nhs.uk. Now, let's talk about foods to avoid after 60 and what to swap in for better circulation, gently, not drastically. First, processed meats like sausage, bacon, ham. A large Harvard study found that eating processed meat was linked to a 42% higher risk of heart disease and a 19% higher risk of type 2 diabetes, compared to those who didn't eat it. Fresh red meat didn't show the same increase. Why? Because processed meats contain nitrites, nitrates, saturated fat, and high sodium, all stressful to blood vessels. If you eat deli meats daily, switch to skinless chicken breast or thighs, beans, or grilled fish, about 3 to 3.5 ounces per serving, and limit processed meats to no more than 1 to 2 times a week. What about deep fried foods? I know they're a little pleasure, but baking, pan-searing with less oil, or using an air fryer gives you crunch without soaking your arteries in reused oil. Just changing the cooking method lowers saturated fat and harmful oxidized compounds significantly. This is especially important in an anti-aging diet, which aims to reduce inflammation and keep vessels flexible. You can even slip in short leg stretches while cooking, good for circulation and fun at the same time. Sugary drinks are the sneaky enemy of both energy and blood sugar. In women, drinking just 1 sugary drink a day is linked with higher risk of heart disease, stents, and stroke, even after adjusting for lifestyle factors. I usually recommend keeping it to no more than 3 to 4 servings a week, ideally less. Instead, water, herbal tea, black coffee, or water with a splash of lemon. If you choose diet drinks with artificial sweeteners, moderation is key. European studies show a possible link between high artificial sweetener intake and cardiovascular risk. Bottom line, water is still king. For carbohydrates, let whole grains take center stage instead of white bread or white rice. A meta-analysis in BMJ showed that people who ate more whole grains had lower risk of coronary heart disease, cardiovascular disease, and overall mortality. The benefits were dose-related. The more consistent, the better. A realistic goal is about 3 servings a day, about 48 grams dry weight. For example, 1 slice of whole grain bread at breakfast, half cup cooked oats, half cup brown rice at lunch or dinner. Whole grains provide soluble fiber that balances blood sugar, nourishes gut bacteria, and helps stabilize arterial plaque. Another natural ally for your vessels, nitrate-rich greens like spinach, kale, celery, and beets. Nitrates convert into nitric oxide, a molecule that relaxes blood vessels, lowers blood pressure slightly, and reduces platelet stickiness. Multiple reviews confirm this. A practical goal, at least 2 handfuls of leafy greens daily, about 2 cups raw or 1 cup cooked, plus a half to 1 cup of roasted beets or a beet smoothie 2 to 3 times a week if you enjoy it. And let's not forget fish, especially fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, sardines, twice a week, about 100 grams, 3.5 ounce per serving. The omega-3 fatty acids in fish help stabilize heart rhythm and reduce vessel inflammation. The American Heart Association, AHA, has been highlighting this for years. Just remember, avoid deep frying to preserve the benefits. Now let me ask you a question to reflect on, and this is also where I'd love to hear your voice among all these suggestions. Which one small change could you start this very week? Placing your feet flat, dropping the leg crossing habit, raising your chair a notch, setting a timer to stand up every 30 minutes, or swapping a soda can for a glass of water? Share it with me in the comments below. Your answer may inspire someone else who just watched this video. Before we close, here's a surprising fact. Many people don't realize that simply wiggling your legs and feet lightly is already enough to protect your blood vessels from sitting-related damage. Surprising, isn't it? But that's what researchers measured in the lab, and I've seen it work in real life with my patients. And now, one gentle commitment I hope you'll make to yourself. After hearing these ideas, are you willing to choose at least one small change, however tiny, to improve your circulation and quality of life? If yes, write down the change you choose in the comments. Writing it is the first step to keeping that promise to your heart. I will come back to read every note, and I'll cheer you on as you move forward. Now let's take a moment to step back and see the big picture. We started with a simple habit, the way you sit, and discovered how it can quietly strains and slow circulation. Then we talked through some powerful but very doable adjustments, keeping both feet grounded to open up blood flow, standing and stretching every half hour to restart circulation, choosing a chair that supports your hips and posture, staying hydrated so your blood doesn't thicken, and nourishing your vessels with foods that protect them, greens, salmon, whole grains, and plenty of water. Each of these steps may look small, but together they build a powerful shield against swelling, fatigue, and even more serious problems like blood clots. Let's circle back to Linda. After she made these changes, nothing extreme, just the steady steps we covered, her evenings started to feel different. She told me, "Dr. Miller, I can walk up the stairs without that heavy, dragging feeling in my legs." Within 3 months, her swelling had gone down by almost 40%, and she was able to enjoy gardening again. And Linda isn't alone. A 2021 study in the Journal of Vascular Health found that older adults who interrupted their sitting every 30 minutes had 36% better circulation markers compared to those who sat continuously. That's the kind of change you can feel. Lighter legs, more energy, even clearer thinking. Here's the encouraging part. Many of my patients notice small wins in as little as 1 week. For some, it's less stiffness when getting out of bed. For others, it's that their shoes feel a little looser in the evening because their ankles aren't swelling as much. These are small victories, but they matter. They build momentum, and that momentum carries you toward bigger changes. So here's my question to you. After hearing all of this, do you feel ready to make a commitment to yourself? What's one small change you could start today? Maybe it's keeping your feet flat, or standing every 40 minutes, or pouring that extra glass of water. Write it in the comments, not just for me, but for you. Putting it into words is like planting a seed. Once it's there, it starts to grow. And remember, if Linda could do it at 74, you can too. You've made a wise choice by staying with me until the end of this talk. That shows me you truly value your health and your future. Many people tune out when the advice gets uncomfortable, but you stayed. That tells me you're serious about taking care of yourself. If today's conversation gave you even one useful insight, I encourage you to subscribe. That way you won't miss my next video, where I'll share more practical, science-backed tips for circulation, mobility, and healthy aging after 60. And I'd like to invite you to share your experience in the comments. Your story may be exactly what someone else needs to hear to feel less alone on their journey. This is Dr. Grice, Jonathan Miller. Thank you for spending this time with me. Remember, small changes done consistently can lead to big improvements. Until next time, take good care of yourself and keep moving forward.